Welcome back to all our loyal listeners and viewers to the Chicago Sunnyside podcast. I'm Kasabez Maakmaah.
And I'm Nehez Meniooh.
And today we get to talk about famous pirates, or what is it, colonizers? Didn't they?
Murderers?
Yesterday.
Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town, Chicago, Chicago, I'll show you around.
The corner was our magic, our music, our politics. Fires raised as tribal dances and war cries broke out of different corners. Power to the people.
And just say Shot City. And if you don't know by now, I'm talking about Shot Town. And just say Shot City, Shot City.
Yesterday was Columbus Day. I mean, that's what I call it. Anyway.
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah,
for those
I feel like we're still in the land of Columbus.
For those who want to think that they're progressing, making political progress in the land that's thoroughly colonized and controlled.
Fun fact.
However, it also is just for people who want to give some respect to indigenous people, and we can't overlook that. Those that want to would rather give some respect and mention to indigenous people than what do you call it, a pirate? What do you call it, favorite pirates?
Infamous sailing the 7 seas in search of booties. So here's my thing about this one. First of all, did you know that Christopher Columbus his name was Cologne? Like, Cologne is actually the real name, and then it got changed to Columbus in English. That's the way the English say it, but if you look at like the Italian or the Spanish, it's more like Cologne. Mm-hmm. So then that's where the name colonization comes from, where the word colonize comes from. It's named after Columbus. He's literally the namesake of colonization. And we're in a land of colonization.
Yeah, we are.
And so, we can't skip over that. I mean, let's just be honest about it. We like it. We benefit. We feel like this is so great. We get to have, lights and electricity and civilization, electric cars. And it's all thanks to Columbus. Give the man his respect. You know what I'm saying? Give him his respect. Because, it's just, to me, a little too hypocritical to be like, we're going to call it Indigenous Peoples Day, and we just going to continue our colonized lives. Like, we have no intention of actually, like, doing anything indigenous or trying to, like, honor indigenous culture or, like, adopt some indigenous culture. We just say, happy Indigenous People Day. You guys are dead, but hats off to you. Bad hair day. I'm not taking my hat off. But
it's true. Yeah. It's true. It's extremely disrespectful.
I mean, come on. Like, if you're gonna have an Indigenous Peoples Day, put it on another day. Why will you put it on Columbus Day of all days? Like, why will you do that? It makes no sense.
Well, it's it's throwing some scraps like the system loves to do.
It's throwing like salt in the wound. That's the way I look at it. Just give, if you're gonna be all about Columbus in practice, just be honest.
Now, this is not. I want to make this clear. This is not a shot at or disrespect to the indigenous people in the Americas who are fighting now to reclaim their culture, try to preserve their identity. That's a valiant effort. That's the same effort that we are part of. However, what you're saying is just true, because you're talking about indigenous people are the ones taking care of the planet. They've been the ones taking care of the planet. They're the ones that have really discovered and offered to humanity the sciences, the understanding of the world at large. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that brought the calendar. They have their own calendars. Different indigenous groups chose which stars, which constellation they're going to follow and set a calendar on, and that calendar will have its holy days that are sacred to that culture. And now to take all of that and say, hey, you can have that day that we were celebrating without any shame.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we overtook you, the fact that we committed genocide, the fact that we found this place and then slaughtered so many of you.
We've been celebrating millions of African people and brought them over here.
We've been celebrating that, and now we will let you celebrate on that day. But keep your calendar. Hopefully we got rid of that calendar. Hopefully we got rid of your sacred days. Hopefully we got rid of your sacred ceremonies and your sacred culture. But you can have that day, and you can get together on that day. We'll still take it off, just like we took it off when it was Columbus Day. We'll still treat it like it's Columbus Day. But yeah, you could have that.
It's the typical lip service that we get from these political movements, which means absolutely nothing in practical terms. You throw the word indigenous out there and you feel like you did something. I mean, if somebody gets inspired to look up the word indigenous and say, hey, what can we learn about indigenous people? That's nice, but let's not pretend that the society is really changing because it's bringing us, it's changing the name on a day.
Yeah, it's true. It's
after they make sure to take everything indigenous out of us.
It's continuing to play political games.
Yeah.
But shout out to all of the indigenous youth, indigenous people, indigenous activists fighting for their culture, fighting to reclaim their way of life, their world, the one that their ancestors passed them down. That's really what we're standing on here at Kebtah. And actually, interestingly enough, yesterday was that day. I won't call it one day or the other to get you started again. But today is the Charm of Aishat, which is a very old holy day in the original Kemetic sidereal calendar that's been preserved in indigenous Africa. And it's one of many holy days that falls throughout the year. But today is a holy day that... You want to explain?
I mean, you already got started. Go ahead.
Today is a holy day that celebrates the divine feminine, the divine mother, Aishat, or who was renamed by the Greeks Isis.
Not the terrorist group, y'all.
Not the terrorist group, no. And so Aishat, Asada, Asta, Aset, she has many names because really when you look into the Kemetic pantheon of gods, Aishat was the one that was most widely honored, revered. There were many temples to Aishat because as human beings, we can clearly see the power of that maternal energy and that divine essence of the mother. The mother for each one of us is our first divinity. It's the one who's given us life. It's the one that maintains our lives as we're growing up. And so this day was really like the first Mother's Day. Before the colonial Mother's Day, before other people saw, people honor their mothers on this day. Let's take that, and give that to people in the new calendar. This was the original one. But also, interestingly, in places where the traditions are kept, this is the day when people who have things that others might call magic because of the knowledge they have, because of the mastery of nature they have, they will bring that to the community and kind of present it, show it, give a demonstration or performance. And so that is today, Charm of Aishat. So happy Charm of Aishat to all of the listeners. Though you may not be able to do a magic show for your community, you definitely can honor the spirit of Aishat as she is expressed through your own mother. You can call her today if there's any issues, because in the modern world it seems like everybody has issues with their mom. Everybody blames their mom for something. You can put all of that down today. Make sure to call your mom and honor that divine essence of motherhood in her that really is the channel through all of us got to life through. So
hello, blessings Mom. To all the mothers, blessings to all the indigenous people. Aishat is known in the Kemetic holy stories for her magic and her powers, and so let's not overlook the fact that the mothers are powerful, and they have a huge role. I mean, they are the ones who bring all of us into life. So, if nothing else, we have to honor them for that.
So, we also, today's episode, that's just our intro, just getting ourselves situated in the timing that we're in. We had to go through watching the Columbus Day, the facade of respect for Indigenous peoples yesterday, and then today is something very sacred and dear to all of us in honoring the mother and honoring the capacity that the human being has for connecting to nature and doing the unexplainable with that connection, or the magical. That was just the introduction. Today we really wanted to talk about what's coming on the horizon for Kebtah organization, the Earth Center. As you all know, our listeners, we've been celebrating 25 years of Kebtah being in Chicago. But in a past episode, we were talking about how really the founder of Kebtah's arrival in the West was 30 years ago, come 2025.
Yeah, in the West specifically, because he did travel in Europe before that. But before that, or excuse me, after that, to actually found the organization, the Earth Center, that we're now, standing as initiates, as members of activists to push forward this mission.
Writers, publishers.
Yes, so many things. Teachers, podcasters, as it turns out as well. We are celebrating 30 years of that mission. He came in 1995, and now we are approaching 2025. So that will be the 30th year since he first arrived here in the United States. So yeah, we're very proud of. Can we use that word? Is that okay?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm proud.
I'm proud of him. Let's say that I'm proud of what he did.
I'm proud of what he did.
I'm proud of what we did, following what he did as well.
Yeah, but of course, it's thanks to them. It's thanks to him that we get to do what we got to do. But I'm proud to have been able to play a role in this, and to have had the good luck and good time to be, in the place where he was. And I don't know if I'd been able to do what you did and just totally move. I mean, maybe. Totally.
You've done that. You moved to Bobo.
Oh yeah. But I'm saying
you did it
before actually meeting the man himself. So that's I think we've all done a lot.
What Kasabez is talking about is that when I heard that Master Naba was in Chicago, I was living on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And once I started reading his writings and following the Earth Center from afar, from California, where I was at the time, I made the plan because I heard he was offering classes. I heard it was an organization you could become a member of. I made the plan to raise the money and move myself to Chicago and do that. And that was right at the time when I had tried university education and was disillusioned by it and where this society was going and where this society was preparing its youth to go and to follow. So I was like, okay, this man who already had his status, already had respect where he comes from, he came here and he's offering classes, he's offering his genius to the communities here. If we can get behind that in order to maybe pave a new way that this society could go, that's not really new because it's patterned after a way that's much older, that's already proven itself. That's what I want to do. So that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, mad respect for that.
Either way, it just was for me. It just was survival. So
right. That's for you doing what you have to do. But
to stay sane in this place.
Look, you know, a lot of people just still going crazy out here, and you know
that's true.
So
that's
I mean,
all of that to say, we are proud of all that Kebtah has done. Where we contributed in that, maybe the pride will even have a different place in our hearts. All of us who see Master Naba as a teacher, as a master, the pride for even what he accomplished as a man from the village, from the bush of Africa, to come to travel the world and then have the effect that he had on people in the modern world, and even to build an organization that even after his passing still continues to grow, even to prepare an heir, a son to take over his mission and keep it going. We have a lot of pride for that. And this being the 30th year, the Kebtah organization is putting on a special celebration event in our headquarter country of Burkina Faso in West Africa. And you all, as our listeners know, we've talked a lot about Burkina Faso, a lot about the revolutionary actions taking place there, the spirit of revolution that has really existed there since the time of Sankara in the 80s, and probably before. It just wasn't expressing itself. So we're really excited about that celebration, but even to call it a celebration is almost like we won't really give it a good...
Yeah, it's kind of belittling it.
Yes.
Yeah, because really, for one thing, we're honoring those in what we call Merita or Africa, in Burkina Faso, and also, you know, some of the neighboring countries, those who have been standing with us, who have been instrumental in contributing to the mission from that side. Because without that side, I mean, we can have all the pride that we want to in ourselves, who are really kind of benefiting from what Master Naba came and brought. But if it's not for people who are coming from the indigenous side, who hold the knowledge, who hold all the powers, the spiritual potential that are on that side, we don't have the ability. Like, there's no way we can hold this up without people on that side standing for this. So we're going to be honoring them. We're going to be really making sure to let them know just how beneficial that their efforts have been.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the members of Kebtah that were around when he passed, we realized that hit us hard in a certain way, because it was like, okay, this man brought this profound information, this old culture to the West, set up a structure that kind of connected the communities over here, even with those back home. But for us, it was new. And for us, we don't have any environment or any background that helps us to put it into context. And so every year he was doing the pilgrimages, taking people back to kind of give them that exposure to a context to really make this real. But, you know, we live in a society of watching a different TV channel every minute. You know, you could see some things, but it might not really go inside where you understand it, and where you really can make sense of, okay, this is what I'm learning in the classroom from him, and this is where it's coming from. This is how it is when it's living, when it's not just theoretical.
Yeah.
After he passed away, and then we got to see, okay, if anybody was thinking that this was lost because he passed away, there's a whole community structure, culture where that he grew up in,
right, that
produced him, where he was able to go and get the knowledge, go and gather the knowledge. It's just he had a level of discipline and hard work ethic, sacrifice, that allowed him to do it at a grand level. But all of that is still there. All of that is still present.
He didn't just materialize out of thin air.
Right. So we saw that. But then even those who were going on pilgrimages when he was around, you know, a lot of times the people that we would meet, they kind of get us to the corner and be like, do you guys know who you're following? Like, man, do you guys understand what you have? And for us, it'd be like, yeah, you know, we respect them, you know, we understand. But when you really see people from there who are grown up in that, there's elders all around them that could do some amazing things, that have an amazing level of knowledge of plants, of, you know, nature, of life. And then even in that environment, people are still like, do you guys know who this is? Do you guys know the opportunity you have? Then it kind of like, looking back on it kind of put it into context, like, okay.
Yeah, he was big for them over there. And he and just like he's big for us over here.
Yeah, and we'd even get to meet people on pilgrimage who were like begging him, can I just come with you and be your bodyguard? Can I just come with you and support in some way? And he'd just be like, you know, the time, it's not that time yet. So now with this event, we're able to now go and celebrate some of the key elders, some of the key kingships that have made it possible. That were there, a part of the structure, part of the culture that he had to go to, that he had to seek permission from, that he had to learn from in order to do what he did. And really, that's how we celebrating those that really this movement couldn't have happened without, and then bringing together those who represent different pieces of the indigenous renaissance that's going on, so that now we can, you know, continue to build and create new connections and create new projects and new initiatives, so that we can make sure that Kebtah continues to move forward into with a different level of effectiveness and efficiency in these next 30 years. So it's very exciting. We're very proud. It should be a big event. We will have not only people representing kingships at the event, people representing elders, priests, healers, traditionalists, people representing the government, even government officials will be there, professionals will be there, activists, bringing together people from both the traditional world and the modern world, because Kebtah is really representing the bridge between the two, all to celebrate ancestral culture, ancestral wisdom, ancestral traditions, and how they can help to build a brighter future for everybody. So,
yeah, and speaking of a bridge, it's really just what Master Naba came. He built a bridge for us to be able to cross back to his lands. I remember on pilgrimage, he told us he took us to his village, and we took like a group photo. He's like, for the first time, we're coming together as one people. Like, this is historic, you know. And you know, it took some time for me to think about it, because I'm like, you know, we're not the first people to travel to Africa, obviously, you know, from the diaspora, but what he gave us before he brought us over there was like to acclimate us to be able to actually fit in with the culture. So becoming one people is like, we really like standing on the same values and principles, the same civilizational ideas, the model, because, you know, a lot of times people come in contact with each other from different places. It doesn't mean that they're one, you know. It's just, you know, these people mixing with these people. But we becoming one people because we're trying to all put ourselves back under the authority, back under the guidance of the indigenous ways. Yeah,
and that's a key. That's so key, because you hear a lot of, especially Black Americans, you know, the world where we come from, talking about Africa and how Africa has little respect for Black Americans, how Africa doesn't want Black Americans to come back, and you hear a lot of things. But it really struck me when Master Naba explained, you know, the elders over there, the people that run the indigenous societies over there, they've been waiting for people to come back. But the disappointment is that whenever we see people coming back from the diaspora, they only come as the ambassadors of their colonization. And then how are we supposed to take that? Because these are the children of here, but they're bringing with them the identity, the values, the perspective of their enslavers. And now it would just kind of put them in a very difficult position, because it was like, how will you not accept your child? But to accept your child will mean to put yourself down, because the perspective they bring is the one coming from their colonization.
Right.
So for the education that he brought, to be able to now replace that with at least theoretically an understanding of, oh, this is what my culture is based on, this is what I'm now striving for, this is what I'm now trying to implement in my life. Now it really allow people to have an understanding. And like we say in the traditions, there's not a lack of space, there's a lack of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the city of Chicago is a big place, there's not a lack of space, but without a level of understanding to people, it won't be a big enough city for them, because they will be upset about the other one being too close to them. But when you have understanding, then even the mat, even the couch is enough space. You don't mind that.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely the concept of one people, the concept of that bridge that he built, is another big pride that we have.
Because we were just talking about Indigenous Peoples Day. We're talking about the idea of Indigenous people today. It's like, after all of us, our ancestors been colonized and taken away from our ancestral values, from our ancestral way of life, our way of understanding ourselves and the world, and how we engage with the earth, with nature, with the divine, with our ancestors, and all these type of things. We've been taken away from all that stuff. And then after we've been taken away from everything that made us who we are, then we want to say, hey, we're celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, while we're still, have no intention of going back to the way our ancestors used to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, to the way you put it, like, coming as ambassadors of the slave master, is almost like saying, okay, now people go back to Africa and say, okay, now we've been made better by this process of colonization that's been done to us and done to our ancestors, and we think we know better than the people who managed to somehow stay where they were. So by the fact that they didn't get colonized, they still live in humble homes made of natural materials, and they might not depend on electricity and running water and all of these type of things, cell phones, and so all the technologies that we're using, and they are living without those things, or without large necessity for those things.
Yeah.
And yet we think that we're now better off after we've been colonized. It's like, then how are, like, it's almost like you going to your grandfather and saying, hey, let me teach you about life.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing, even if you put it like that, people won't take it.
It's almost like, thank you, slave master.
Well, no, if you put it like we think we're better,
thank you, Columbus,
people will try to avoid that. No, I don't think I'm better than anybody. But I want everybody who's listening to think, when you think about going to Africa, do you think about what you can bring them? Do you think about what you can do for them? Do you think about how can your money and your education serve to contribute to Africa?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Right.
Because if you're coming from the
Because
West,
that's the image we get. They're so poor, they're needy, and all that.
that's what you will be thinking. But you forget, this is the place called Motherland to all of humanity, not even just black people. And we don't really think about what can we get going there? What can we reclaim going there? What can we find again that helps us understand even ourselves, who we are, where we come from, what we're supposed to be doing from there? Instead, we think about what charities can we bring, what charities can we contribute to help the, poor people that are there.
And don't get it wrong, because you go there trying to learn, and then once you're there learning and you're benefiting from being over there, you can show your gratitude with whatever resources you have. But don't go thinking, oh, you're the one who's the more fortunate one helping the less fortunate. That's backwards. That's the opposite of what the case is.
So in addition, this event, this 30-year celebration that Kebtah will be putting on, is really bringing that message to the youth there in Burkina, in the place. We'll also be celebrating in Togo, celebrating the 15 years of work that's been happening in our healing center there. And in both places, that will really be the message given to not just the youth but the city. Whatever Masanaba accomplished, whatever this movement is doing it with the identity coming from here, unapologetically, unchanged, unbowing. You can be proud of your ancestors, what they had, and that's where your development can come from. That's where your success can come from. You don't have to put that down and reach for what your colonizer had to be successful. And when we really look at colonization, coming right back around to your main man, Christopher, when we look at colonization, that's really what it's about, because how can we be educated in the modern world? You know, people forget, like, every place, if people are living together and surviving, every place has their own level of education. When we talk about people need education, we think about it in one way now. That's colonization. That means, oh, this person can't read or write in English or French or
that
Spanish.
means they can't fit into our system. That's the only thing that means.
So this event is really also to make that clear message to the people there. You don't need other people's stuff, foreign stuff, to be successful.
You don't need to prove yourself to other people who are, you know, just because they can show themselves on TV and make movies about what they're doing and stuff like that. You don't have to prove yourself to people who are just really good at talking loud
and don't get us
people's
wrong.
Attention.
Don't get us wrong. It doesn't mean that once an indigenous person comes up on their own stuff, proud of their own stuff, clear on who they are, what their culture is, they can't become worldly. They can become worldly and start learning other languages and how to, you know, walk through other circles around the world. That's fine. But the point is, you don't deny yourself thinking that you have to do that to become successful. And so this is going to be an important event for that, not just for the people there, but, you know, if we're able to cast it, put it online, then it'll be important for colonized places around the world in the decolonization process and movement that we see happening now. So we're excited for that.
Yeah, look out for that. We'll be definitely broadcasting and showing some footage and things like that. We'll have different ways for you to tune in. But also, if you want to come and join us in person, the event is open to the public, and the Earth Center Kebtah is also leading a 3-week pilgrimage that will also be open to the public, where we'll be going to these celebrations and hosting these celebrations, and also doing tours to other sacred places and visiting royalty and things of that nature. So it's a great opportunity as well to get yourself acclimated back into your roots.
Yeah, the annual pilgrimage. Every year, the Earth Center puts on the pilgrimage in the original sense of the word. Travel, a journey done with the intent on spiritual evolution, on going to see sacred sites, spiritual sites in your own spiritual journey, and evolving through your own spiritual journey. The Earth Center, back in 1990 something, started the pilgrimage to Merita, Africa. The only pilgrimage in the modern world that's taken to Africa, that's going to the motherland of humanity, the cradle of civilization. How can we be talking about pilgrimages, but we leaving out or we're neglecting the cradle of civilization? So that has happened pretty much every year, with a gap every now and then for political situations. Pretty much every year the Earth Center has hosted that pilgrimage, but this year specifically with those events, it will be very special, and you're all invited to come. We'll put the link in the description. We'll also put the link in the description for the event page on the website that's speaking specifically about that upcoming event. And just look out more on our social media channels, on our website, about that event coming.
Yeah, because we're still putting the program together as far as the broadcast. But yeah, that will be this coming January 2025.
And if you're not able to make it on this pilgrimage, you can still donate to the event that's happening. You can still donate to the projects that the Earth Center is doing on that side. like children's education projects, environmental projects where we're making sure to invest into the education of the youth there, not only in their own indigenous culture, which is the priority, the first level, but then also in becoming worldly enough so that we can produce more great minds, great spirits like Master Naba that get to affect not only their village but also the world at large with the profundity of the culture that's been preserved there. So check us out.
For sure. The support is necessary, and again, we are not supported by the United States government, the state of Illinois government, the Chicago government, or the government of any of the countries, states, provinces, or cities that we're in. We're not supported by grant money. We're not supported by federal funding, government funding, large corporations, foundations, or anything of the like. We're not supported by that. We're supported totally 100% grassroots for 30 years. This has been a grassroots movement, only supported by members and supporters. So if this is something, exactly, people like you. So if this is something you support, even this podcast, you get some value in it. We really appreciate any contributions that you have, monetarily or otherwise. Let us know how you would like to get involved. And again, we have local memberships where you can get involved in some of our local activities too.
We'll put the links in the description.
But if this is something that you like to learn more about, we always say, because the thing is, like Master Naba would say, what do you lose by trying another way? Mm-hmm. What do you have to lose? Because we've tried every other way and we feel like it's not working for us. Mm-hmm. We can see, all the how unstable the world, the country, but the world is at large is kind of becoming. And that's under the leadership of the so-called leaders of the free world and the first world countries and so on like this, and we're scared for the next 50 years. We don't know what it's going to be like. So if you want to see something different, then you're going to have to put your energy and your efforts into something that can bring something other than the trend that we've been on for the past couple thousand years, depending on your perspective of things.
We could all see that we're on the brink of another world war.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point. Like, now we're on the brink of World War III, maybe World War IV, depending on how you want to look at it. And we can see
3 and 4 in one.
We can see the ongoing wars that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think Genocide Joe is trying to take credit for the fact that there's no official war that America is in. Have you heard that?
No.
And it's just
but
like,
it's hilarious.
What? Yeah, like what? There's wars everywhere.
Right.
And America's the funder.
Yes.
So when we're talking about now investing in indigenous culture, it's not just like, and that should be made clear, it's not just like indigenous show. It's not just like indigenous song and indigenous dance. It's like the indigenous structures that are at the foundation of indigenous societies everywhere.
Yes.
And now if you want to complain about where the modern world is going, what the modern world is doing, how the modern world depends on us killing each other, depends on wars, depends on world wars. Now you're talking about an indigenous way of life where you don't see world wars in indigenous ways of life. And the modern world has told you, oh, that's because they don't travel like we do, or they don't have the technology like we do. No, it's not. It's not, because most of what you have, you plagiarize from them. They just never took it the way you're taking it.
You think people who built the pyramids couldn't figure out a way to travel around the world?
Good, exactly. So now if that resonates with you, if you can see the logic in that, hey, the leaders I've been investing in, the leaders I've been putting all my attention in they don't think twice about killing me, my children, or sacrificing us to their success or just another term. Then what was there before? What proved itself in preserving human life, proved itself in preserving the environment, proved itself in preserving the harmony between humanity and its environment? How can I invest in that?
I mean, I think we're really just gonna have to show people a little bit better. Like when the temples that that the Earth Center and Ancaster are constructing and preserving, the kingships and all these things that we're supporting, like they really depend on our work and what we're doing. Like, you know, the money that comes through these doors, yeah, it helps with the operations in the West, but we do a lot also to help preserve the traditional structures in Merita, the spiritual structures in Merita that are upholding everything that we're depending on here. So, you know, I think we're just gonna have to show a little bit more.
Definitely, that's the work, and the work will continue here in Chicago. We're very proud of the last 30 years, but in this next 30 years, we are still just as dedicated, still just as motivated and committed to bringing that ancestral wisdom that's been preserved into the communities of Chicago to better life here. We want to thank you all for continuously tuning in, continuously following us. Make sure to tell a friend, make sure to comment, let us know what you'd like to hear about, what you'd like a traditional or indigenous perspective on in some of the challenges that we're facing in Chicago, and be sure to like and subscribe.
And any guests that you think can have a platform that you want to hear more about, or like to see us interact with, put us in contact as well.
Yes.
So, peace to everybody.
Great to have you all. Each episode, it's great to have y'all's ears for a moment. We'll see you next time on the sunny side of the street.
Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street.